Avtar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Welcome, everybody. My name is Laurent Weichberger. Margi is not here tonight. She asked if I could be the facilitator or host of the 1-hour session. So we're going to have a late night with a very special guest who I believe none of you is going to be able to guess. But before I do that introduction to the guest, I'd like to honor that each one of us is here. And so I like to go around the room and we do a check-in of your name, how you like to be called, and let's do your favorite game or toy when you were a child. And we'll go around like that. So I call myself Laurent. That's the name my parents gave me. My favorite game when I was a child was I loved to play basketball. So I'd wake up in the morning and I'd go out to school long before the school started so I could play in the schoolyard. And then when the bell would ring, I'd go into the school. And then at lunchtime, I'd play more. And then after school, I'd play more until I got hungry for dinner and I'd go home. So I was constantly in motion basically when I was a kid. Okay, who's next?
I had a lot of things I like to do, but I think the favorite was riding my bike and then playing double Dutch jump rope and playing like I was a mother, like with dolls and have a baby buggy and thinking about when I was going
Oh,
to
like
grow
make
up.
believe?
Yeah, yeah, me and my cousin would walk down the street with baby buggies. We had these dolls called Tony dolls,
Yeah,
yeah, just thinking about growing up too fast. Anyway,
awesome, awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that, Marcia.
thank you.
This is Marion, New
Hey,
York
Mary.
City. So Marion as in librarian. And a lot like Marcia, I love my dolls, my bike, and bouncing a ball and jumping rope. So we would have gotten along real good as playmates. So that's what I love too.
Awesome.
My name's Ken, in upstate New York. Yeah, riding bikes in the winter in Florida and swimming in the summer. Playing with my toys when I was younger, model cars and things.
Awesome. Hopefully you didn't get too flooded up there, Ken.
No, it kind of missed us.
Okay, good. Okay, who's next?
Some of the regulars seem to be missing tonight.
That's okay. Margapan?
Ralph was there. Where'd he go?
I need to stay quiet, sorry.
Oh, okay. Dinku?
Hi, what's happening? Deku? Yeah.
Is that everybody?
Ralph, we can't hear you.
I thought Dinku was, what you were like saying about things you liked when you were young, is that it?
Your favorite toy or game?
It was baseball.
Awesome.
And that's also true that baseball things were my favorite, that you would say toys.
Mhm.
Oh yeah. Oh yes, I did have a sort of a spiritual experience, probably at about age 9. I had this set of really nice long barrel 45 6-shooter revolvers. They were toy guns, but they really looked pretty authentic.
Yeah,
And holsters, real leather holsters.
yeah.
And one day I was playing and there was a vacant, this is a sort of a San Antonio, Texas residential area, just row houses, streets running parallel to each other, and backyards meeting together, the street, and then neighbors across the street. And we had a lot where there was no house built, and it was all grown up really tall with tall grasses. It was way over our heads, and we loved to play in there and created tunnels going through those tall cane grasses, and we just had a blast playing in there. And one day, somehow or the other, something possessed me. I took my guns off. I don't know what possessed me to do that. And I was in those tall cane grasses. And I got back, and I ended up back home and realized I didn't have them on me. And I thought, oh my God, I can't lose my guns, and got really upset about it. And I started talking, thinking that God couldn't that should help me or something, that I couldn't lose those guns. And all of a sudden, it was like I just started walking back towards that lot. And this was totally unconscious. Not unconscious, but I didn't know where those guns were. I'd already been over there actually and looked for them. And I may get some of this messed up, but it makes more sense. It's more logical that I missed them in the grasses and then got home and got to double thinking that I shouldn't give up looking. And I went back, and the whole way I was kind of probably weepy and talking to God to let me, and I never talked to God. I never thought about it. And I walked right to those guns laying there, and there they were. And I felt so grateful.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that story.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very
Thank
much.
you. You want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I always loved the outdoors, doing things outdoors. So I used to love roller skating, bicycling, just playing things like hopscotch and stuff like that.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. And I see V's joined us. V's, do you want to go next? V's, are you there? Anybody know V's?
V's, unmute. We can't hear you. Unmute.
Maybe V's is not at the computer. All right, that's okay.
Okay.
Oh, we got Jeff Wolverton.
Uh-huh.
Jeff, you're up next. It's the question is, how do you like to be called? What's your name? And what was your favorite toy or game as a child? Jeff?
Unmute, Jeff.
Looks like some people are having trouble with their audio. That's okay.
Oh, I got it. Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay, good. Okay.
Did you hear the question?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I think we know you like to be called Jeff, but it's your name and your favorite toy or game when you were a child.
My favorite game was baseball. Favorite toy? A baseball mitt? No.
Yeah, it can be, sure.
And what was the other question?
Well, your name. How do you like people to call you?
Jeff.
Okay, we'll call him Jeff.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff. David,
Yeah.
I see you. David, I see you joined us. Would you like to share?
He's going to be coming to the Usa Harvest pretty soon.
Great.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Let me turn my light on. Good to see you all.
You too.
I just had, I let go of my feelings. I was talking with Sherry and my dad about how I'm nervous to come, and I just want to feel like I just want to feel heard and like accepted for who I am, even if like some of that stuff may not be all Baba. Like what I mean by like it's just my like my own personality. And it was a good talk because it kind of got me to do a reality check, like, oh, what is that really like what you think is gonna happen with these people? Like these one of a kind people. So I had a good cry about that, and I'm looking forward to it now. Just being open and vulnerable because I know that's what Baba wants us to do, is to express ourselves.
Of course.
And
Thank you.
I feel like I've just held so much in for so long that I'm intrigued when I'm excited to see how it goes when I'm respectfully and truthfully myself. So thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, you're in a good crowd, you know. These people all need tremendous amount of work.
My dad said we're all misfits. And I was like, Dad, why use a
Yeah.
word? Why use a word with that negative connotation? And then Sherry, I call her Sherry Bear, she said light workers. I'm like, I
Yeah.
like that a little bit better. Sounds like we
Yeah.
just got signed by Disney to do a movie, a Pixar movie.
Great.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Yeah. Marcia,
See you
I see
on,
your hand up.
see you on Monday.
They're like a work in progress. But we were talking about what was your favorite toy when you were young. So we want to know what your favorite toy or thing was. Like, right, Laurent?
You want me asking me?
We all are sharing what our favorite games or toys are when we were young.
I
So,
would say Rock'em Sock'em or just basketball. I love playing basketball.
Yep, I was a big basketball player too.
I play Rock'em Sock'em with my grandpa, and he really tried to make me believe that he was actually trying, but he let me like, when I won every time, but
Mhm.
didn't do a good. I figured it out eventually.
Mhm. Yep.
what is rock and sock? I don't know what rock and sock.
It's a game where the fighters try to punch each other. I had it too. I had that game.
Remember, we used to put our hands out like this, you know, and people would slap them like that.
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
a
what
different
that's
game.
like?
Yep, that's a different game.
Wow. Okay. I used
All
to
right,
like
so
trading cards. Trading cards.
yeah. Okay, y'all ready for the special guest that I have lined up for tonight? Okay, it's a very special guest, and it was very hard for me to arrange this, but I think you're gonna like it. Our special guest tonight is Meher Baba within you. Meher
Okay.
Baba within you. And to start it off, I have a quote that I'd like to share with you. And let's see if you've heard this one before. This is Meher Baba's words. Well, it starts with external silence helps to achieve inner silence. And only in internal silence is Baba found, in profound inner silence. I am never silent. I speak eternally. The voice that is heard deep within the soul is my voice, the voice of inspiration, of intuition, of guidance. To those who are receptive to this voice, I speak. I'm going to read it one more time and then we're going to open it up. External silence helps to achieve inner silence. And only in internal silence is Baba found, in profound inner silence. I am never silent. I speak eternally. The voice that is heard deep within the soul is my voice, the voice of inspiration, of intuition, of guidance. To those who are receptive to this voice, I speak. So I hope you like that quote. And my question that I'm gonna plant the seed of a question. What is your relationship to Baba within you? How is that journey with Baba going? Anything you'd like to share about your relationship to Baba within? And anybody can respond. And if you want, I can go first, but I'm open to hearing anybody. Go ahead, Marcia.
I've been saying to myself all the time, I am the infinite within, infinite God is within me. And I'm starting to feel like that when I'm silent, then that inner voice is Baba inside me because we're one, something like that, yeah. So like when I drive, I turn it over because I remember what Jeff said about letting Baba take over, and it really works because like he lets you know all the time when you're lacking faith or something. Like yesterday, I was driving, I just said this before, I was driving on the highway, and in Chicago, we've got this major highway with big trucks and everything. And when I got in the car, I had a car accident 10 years ago. I was hit by a Mack truck. And then I had another little couple accidents in last year. And it's been 10 years. And I was on the highway and thinking, well, Bob is driving, right? And kind of thinking, oh, I'm driving, but Bob is driving. And then all of a sudden, a car goes like right at me, you know, from the lane. And the wheel was, it was Baba's wheel. He went, you know, and I didn't hit any cars around me, and I'm still here. And then in Myrtle Beach, I was driving down the highway, and I hit a curb at 40 miles an hour on Kings Highway, and the car flew up in the air like a cartoon, boom, boom, boom. And I kept going, and I thought, oh, God, you're going to get me now. But he keeps letting me know that I'm not ready to go yet. So we don't have to worry about that, right? Yeah.
That's awesome. Great story, Marcia. Thank you. Who wants to go next? Jeff, you want to go?
Well, so give me is Finding Baba Within?
Well, kind of. I think the question is, what's your relationship to Baba within you? He's our special guest tonight. It's Baba within you.
Oh.
So he's here with all of us in a way that's very, very special. He says he's within us. And that's what the quote was saying, right? Did
Yeah.
you remember what he said in the quote? So
Yeah.
how do you relate to what Baba's saying, that he's actually within you?
Well, I mean, to give you kind of the trajectory of my life, when back in the 60s, in the late 60s, I saw Baba appear to me, and I recognized him as God and all love, but I was not that attracted to Baba's divine side, but his human side. I was most drawn to having him as my companion. So I set out to kind of find out everything about him as a man. You know, what would it like to be around him? I heard all the stories, read all the books and movies and everything. And initially, I felt Baba watching me wherever I went, his presence. But then by finding out all about him, I kind of filled out his personality. So he wasn't just a presence. He was, you know, Baba there with me. And I developed a communication with him that was really, you know, Baba the man and me. You know, I wasn't relating to some transcendent divine being, but so that had the deepest, that touched me most deeply, and
Beautiful. I love it.
and what and so. And then I got connected with Darwin Shaw and Jean up there in Schenectady. And They really, when I got there, they had Baba's companionship. That was their emphasis. So this really reinforced my whole approach, my approach. They were just hanging out with Baba all day and all night. It was the three of them, Baba and Jean and Darwin. And so I kind of benefited tremendously from that. But one of the things that Darwin emphasized, because Baba, he got it from Baba himself. Baba said, you know, if you love me, you must give me everything. Your good and your bad, your joys and your sorrows, your strengths and your weaknesses, give them all to me and be free. And that, Darwin really conveyed to us, will create inner space. As you empty out your heart, you have more room for Baba to live in you, so to speak. So we worked on that decades and decades, so that I was able to, in the eye of my heart, to see Baba within, not as a still photograph on the wall, but moving around. I could see him not as a man moving around and at the inner level. So, what happened is eventually Baba kind of conveyed to me at a certain point, you need to find me and others. Basically, what he conveyed to me is that you have, you know, you've been following me in yourself for lifetimes. Now, how about going out in the neighborhood and finding me in others?
Beautiful.
So finding Baba in others is much more difficult.
Yep.
You know, but that has kind of been my quest, so to speak. And, you know, because it expands, you know, expands who I am, you know, expands my being. So I'm not just, it's just not Baba and me inside, but
Right.
Baba in others. And that has been, and I see what is beautiful is that I see how Baba relates to others. So that gives me another whole dimension of, you know, I'm familiar with how he relates to me, but how he relates to Tony, how he relates to you, how it relates to Ken, you get a feeling of that. And boy, it's only expanded.
Yeah.
What's that?
No, go ahead. Expanded what?
You know, it's expanded who Baba is.
Yeah.
Who Baba the man is.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there a relationship between what you're seeing in that expansion and that finding Baba in others? Is there a relationship between that and unconditional love?
Oh, definitely. I mean, Baba said, I am whatever you take me to be. So I was very free with that. You know, he's my father, inspiring me to go deeper. He's my confidant. He's my mother who loves me unconditionally, no matter what. So I was very free with making Baba, taking advantage of that, you know, so that he wasn't just one one-sided character.
Beautiful.
Two-dimensional character, so I expanded it out.
I love it.
So it just it's made it fun and enjoyable, and like I say, I got a front row seat on how, here at the center, on how Baba relates to all these people coming through. So that's and of course that personal relationship. He speaks to me. Oh, I got a phone call coming in, and I'm on duty. So anyway, yeah, see you guys.
I want to honor the fact that we have Tony, V's, VJ, and Vanessa who have joined us, and I want to allow them to do the icebreaker.
Yes, Peter.
The name that you like to be called and your favorite toy or game as a child. Tony, V's, VJ, and Vanessa. One of you want to go next? You have to come off mute.
Well, I guess I like to be called Horace, and the game I most loved as a child. Um, I don't know. I'm
Spin the
Tony.
bottle.
Yes, I never got to that. All the other kids in junior high would do it, and they had a click, and I wasn't in it. So that would have been my favorite game that I never played. uh, but no, my name is just fine.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for that help, Jeff. Though that was a good save for me.
How about V's or VJ or Vanessa?
Jai Baba, are you,
Jay
are you
Baba,
able to hear me?
we hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jai Baba. Jai. Well, in India, since my childhood, because I've been brought up in very normal family, simple family. My father and my parents and 5 children, and he worked in a defense establishment. So I used to play the games like, the gatta, those marbles, and you hit them, and like I used to win a lot of those marbles.
Awesome.
Then those gilli danda means there is a big stake, and then there's a small wooden piece pointed from both sides, and you hit it, it jumps, and then you hit it. And so that's the kind of game. Football I played with my elders, the military people. I used to play football. And yeah, so these 3-4 games. And catching those small those helicopter like creatures.
Oh, good. Good.
So all
Thank
these
you.
games I play.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
V's or Vanessa, would you like to share? And the question for those who came late, and our special guest is Meher Baba within you. So our question is, what's your relationship like with Meher Baba within you? How do you relate to Baba within you? And we shared a quote. I can share it one more time. Quote is, external silence helps to achieve inner silence, and only in internal silence is Baba found, in profound inner silence. I am never silent. I speak eternally. The voice that is heard deep within the soul is my voice, the voice of inspiration, of intuition, of guidance. To those who are receptive to this voice, I speak. Vanessa or V's, would you like to share?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Can't
Okay,
see you
so,
though.
what?
We can't see you.
I know, I don't know why it turns off my video when I turn on my speaker. I don't know why. So my nickname when I was younger was Nikki. I gave it to myself. Me and my best friend came up with these names. I had it for ages. And then my favorite toy was probably my bike. Rode my bike a lot. And then throughout the years, it really became like my best friend in a way. I really loved my bike. I did everything on my bike. I even got hooks to hang my bike over my bed so I could stare at my bike when I went to bed. I had a really nice bike, but yeah, definitely my bike. And then that's it.
Do you want to share a little bit about your relationship to our special guest, Meher Baba, within you?
Sure.
How's that relationship to Baba within work out for you?
Well, I think it was kind of interesting. My parents found out about Baba in the 70s. So I just kind of grew up with Baba pictures on the wall. And so he and I kind of had a relationship that was very organic, grew, over time. But I do remember looking at a picture of Baba and being like, of course, like I never questioned that Baba was God. I always felt his love coming from his photographs. And then we had the poster in our bedroom as a kid, the real happiness lies in making others happy. So Baba had his hands clasped together and he was smiling. So I always felt that Baba was, watching over me. He was there. And then as I matured, I was feeling that I was talking to Baba. I don't think I was really realizing I was having a conversation because it was so natural. It was just like, oh, Baba this and Baba that. And then my parents went to India in 1976. I was about 6 years old. And I just remember like, I was very disturbed that they weren't going to take me because I felt that I was going to be missing something very important. It was that relationship to Baba became very much in the forefront, and I was only 6 and I couldn't, of course, you're 6, you think your parents would be like the primary or maybe, some family member, but it was really like I felt the tug in my heart very deeply. So the nature of how important he was to me was sort of revealing itself through these occurrences. And then, as I became a teenager, I was very much reliant on his love to fill my heart and kind of get me through the torrents of life. I especially felt like going from, preteen through teenagehood in the world, having this relationship with Baba was so important for me, to kind of get through without, feeling like I was, going through, I guess, unnecessary traumas, like dealing with Maya. And we went to the LA Sahabas like every year. So we kind of got our cups filled, and then we got our hearts sort of soothed, after dealing with the world. And we would talk about that as teens. We had a great leader, Lois Jones, who did the same thing we're doing right now in the Zoom. She would ask us like, what is your relationship to Baba in your heart? How is that going? And we would all share. And so I grew up then sharing with peers who shared about, how Baba showed up for each of us. And that's when I realized, having my community, where I could feel safe to talk about, how important Baba was to me and what he was doing with me was, paramount. So, then I decided as an adult having a family that I would bring my children to grow up at the center and have that, because I just realized, as an adult now that Baba was, he was the one, he was the source and everything. So I didn't know if my children were going to have Baba necessarily as close to their hearts, but I wanted to give them that opportunity to experience his love in a tangible way and to have that as a daily way of, releasing one's, sufferings and toils and turmoil as we go through life. So anyway, but he's definitely, he's fulfilled. Baba has definitely fulfilled every need and continues to do so in ways that are surprising and most intimate, and very grateful. Thank you.
Awesome. Was that the image that you grew up with? Oh, maybe she can't see it. Do you guys see the poster, Real Happiness?
No,
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 but can't say anything really except, including the gallery. That's better.
No. I was trying to share the screen. Let's see.
we were seeing your screen, but it was whoever was speaking.
Oh. How about if I do it this way? Can you see now?
Yeah.
Yep, yep.
Vanessa, can you see it?
That's the one. That's it.
That's the one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Oh, now we can see you too. V's, I noticed you joined us, and Tony has his hand up. Go ahead, Tony.
So after, oh, go ahead, V's.
Jay Baba. Sorry, Tony. Yeah, you want to go ahead, Tony?
Oh yeah, I thought it was V's. Yeah, Vanessa's share made me realize I was interpreting your favorite game too narrowly. She picked her favorite toy, so then immediately what came to mind for me was my Zorro costume, and I loved dressing up in my Zorro costume and pretending I was Zorro. I wasn't pretending, I was Zorro.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
kind of incognito, but helping people who needed help and needed really someone to be there, and not afraid of getting into a little joust. Or as for your question, I'm very open. As anyone who's been around me in these chats, I'm really extremely open and transparent with my life with Baba in so many levels. But when I read your when I read this, it seemed like a very different question. How do you relate to beloved Baba deep within your soul? And it may be because of my relationship with Harry Kenmore, but to me that's like asking me to speak about the most intimate part. How do you relate in your soul? What the most intimate aspects of the relationship with Baba? And I remember Kenmore saying once, you know, when a man is in love with a woman, he doesn't tell the whole cockeyed world what goes on together between them when they're together intimately. And I think the relation of the soul with Baba is kind of like that. And you could conceivably, the minute you try to, in my experience, to try to even speak of it, you dilute it and you make it into something that the ego can understand. And the relationship with Baba at the soul level, I don't think can be put into words.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Ken.
Yeah,
And then
thanks, Vanessa and Tony. They were both helpful. When I read the question earlier, the Baba quote about such a small thing as an umbrella can block the stupendous sight of something so stupendous as the sun. And I realized, though, I'm thinking of Baba a lot, and that being in his presence is a subtle difference maybe for me, you know, and that after all these years, I just have to remove that small umbrella to feel his presence. But I don't remember to do that very often, maybe, you know, to be quiet enough to just let Baba be there and not myself.
I love it. That's beautiful, Ken.
So thanks for the.
Thank you. Thank you. I see Marcia has her hand up.
This Silence Day to me was very monumental. It's like usually over the years with Silence Day, I was be like, oh, I have to be silent all day or hold up notes, and I didn't really feel it. But this year I decided, well, I'm really going to do this silence thing. And in the silence, I could hear, I talk to Baba all the time, but when you're silent, you really hear him, and because you don't have all this other stuff. And that's when he's talking to you, is when you're silent. And sometimes you forget that you're yourself and you become Baba, like when you're driving or whatever. But I only broke silence once, and it didn't matter because it was just the idea that, so today when I was driving, I've been being more silent when I'm doing stuff every day and not talking as much. And whenever I'm silent, then I have this inside conversation with God, So that's how it works for me.
I love it. Awesome. Any other volunteers? I can share my experience, but I'd love to hear from others if anybody else wants to go first.
Yeah, this actually this is hi Jai Baba. This is Viz. Viz is disappeared. Eric used to call me by name Viju. So on mobile I keep that name. So hi Jai Baba. My relationship with beloved Baba is since my childhood. It's my fortune that I grown up in Baba family. And in India, there is a spontaneous, natural inclination towards Guru and all those. That culture is like that. So Meher Baba was like our family Guru initially. And those days we used to hide him. We will not discuss Meher Baba in open. We say which Baba is that, and there. Privately, but I have grown up in privately that Baba lovers culture. They were so dynamic. Those old Baba people, my God, they were so dedicated, and Baba meetings and all those. So I grown up in that, and I have that spontaneous love and respect and faith in a guru kind of culture. And then after meeting Baba and being with him so many times, I had his darshan first time in 53 as a kid, 1960, 61, 62, 63, 64, and 69. So all the, and then later on this intellectual aspect came. Like when you are grown intellectually, seeing so many Westerners coming to India, coming to Baba's tomb and this Baba world. And then those time with Baba, after Baba dropped his body in 69, then those 40 years with the Mandali, my God. So going all through this, and so this intellectual thing was also there after that spontaneous faith in Baba, and whether he's God and things like that. So, and I wanted to go away from him also. But see, I felt that he got me by neck. My father used to hold me by neck like this and take me. So I felt that I can't get away from him. He has grabbed me by neck, and there is no other way. Like, see, Mehrabad is such a beautiful place. I wanted to go in my younger days, those traveling other places. But I found that Mehrabad is so attractive. I'm wasting my time on these places. So, and these people were best people, Mandli, with Baba and Mandli, the love and the response, my God. Still we cry and we miss those people. And to me, Baba is the highest of the high, and he's everything. You can take him, your friend, and he is there. Baba says, when in 69, remember, this is not my real body. This is a quote. So this is not the body. And Baba said, this is all illusion. And that to understand that wording, it's all illusion. It took me years, and now I realize it's all illusion, conditioned to time. This is not real. What I am talking, I am illusion actually. I will be gone after its time. So what Baba said, slowly, slowly I grabbing those things, and those like things like past lives and present life. These are actually true. And in between, I had certain inner experiences also. That so I felt that whatever Baba is telling it's very true, and we must have such a faith. Hold on to his Dharma. He's the highest of high. He's everything, and he's there now. And those their heart is developed, they can also catch his response, and they, like Jeff said. So, and many of us said that they are catching him. And one thing I found that the Westerners, those coming to India from the West, like in India, we have that spontaneous and spiritual culture. But those Westerners, they are very honest and intellectually they came into our fold. So that way I appreciate. Indians, by virtue of culture, they, in the same culture, they go just for the formality to the center. But those Western followers, they have really honestly, if they accepted him, they take him seriously. And so that's why I had a lot of liking for the Western Baba lovers. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you, Vijay. Thank you very much.
Jai Guru.
I see that Richard Sander has joined us. Richard, would you like to share the question that I asked at the beginning was, how do you relate to our special guest, Meher Baba, within you? How do you relate to beloved Baba within you? And we've heard various different ways of how people relate to Baba within. Mary, in 1 sec, let's hear if Richard would like to share.
That I think we touched on this a couple weeks ago or something. I think Margi was doing something, but I found that it was kind of difficult for me to conceptualize it. But what I've been going through lately, Laurent, is along the lines of, is Baba inside me or is Baba everywhere and outside me also? And I've always wanted to sort of escape. You know, I'm going to escape into Baba and I don't have to worry about the world anymore. But it doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. It doesn't work like that. And so because I've had a pretty dysfunctional life, especially early on, I've often wanted to escape my own sanskara, suffering, karma, or figure it out or solve it or something. But as near as I can experience it, Baba is much, much greater than anything I can conceive or conceptualize. So I think there's a point where you have to go with the flow, but always remembering Baba. Now, I don't know, that's really all I can really do. That's really a valuable thing. Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Marion, I see your hand is up.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you for getting this going. I too, as others have said, I find it very difficult to put this into words and not be too wordy. So of course, like everyone else, it changes as I am at a different phase in my life. It's very different. So for now, just the other day, I thought, oh, I wish I'd kept some notes of what happened this last week, because I kind of forget, things are happening so fast. And that is, I say Baba's name, and I'm here in New York City, so there's a lot of activity out on the streets when I'm out there. And sometimes I sing Baba's name to Ode to Joy or things like that, that really the vibration goes through my body. It's just not just out my mouth or in my head, but in my whole energy field, the vibration. So that's life as usual. Now in my studies, in my professional studies was very linked to what Meher Baba teaches about his personality as manifested into the world of knowledge, power, bliss. And so in my training as a professional, we would take that and put it in the psychological field, where we all, when we were little kids, psychologically, which Meher Baba said that is spiritual too, is I learned defenses. I learned ways to take care of myself when I didn't get needs met. And so each of those knowledge, power, bliss is then distorted into a reason. That's an intellectualizing person, or power, somebody who's aggressive and tries to get power over others, or emotion. So I'm more open-hearted and everything, but my defense is I have a lot of emotions and I try to be really good and I try to get my needs met by manipulating somebody else. Now that's my defense from my little childhood, but my divine nature is knowledge, power, bliss. So in that, I noticed that there's a part of me on that psychological level that does not feel entitled to get my needs met. Needs is a whole page of printed of needs in nonviolent communication, like companionship, sharing, mutuality, my physical needs. There's all these hundreds of needs. So I've always been sort of like trying to do everything myself. So now what's happened is a huge shift over this last year or so, but I've noticed it this week, getting all my needs met. But I'm not totally happy because as Mayor Baba teaches, and as we know, the entry to the unitive state is when you can hold pain and pleasure equally, where you can hold the opposites equally of duality. When they're held equally, you're not flopping back and forth between one or the other. And that's what I'm noticing happening with me. So when my needs are, it could be a need for meeting somebody like-minded, it could be just anything. I'm shocked. It's like Bob is showing me, I'm getting all these needs met. And the pain still, because the pain of the kind of distance still flows through me, but it's not predominant. They're both there. And so what I've noticed.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah, so they're both there. And so, but all these needs being met, I am shocked. So, but what happened, I'll try to just finish this. I guess it was about a month ago. I didn't mark down the date, but I'm going to write it as a memoir piece. I had an experience when I was saying the Parvartigar prayer, where it says, "O Parvartigar, the preserver and protector." I went into the silence descended over me. So where there's no thought, and out of the silence comes the voice of God, as we know. And so there's no thought, no mind chatter, nothing. It's just that what I got, it wasn't until I came out of that I could reflect, because I couldn't do that while I'm in the silence. But what Baba gave me, the experience of the word protector. And so I'd never heard it before in my life. So when I was in the silence, I'd never heard that word as a real meaning of that word, because on the psychological level, what was missing in my childhood was being fully protected. And I teach that with others. What was missing in your childhood? How to get those needs met now. So here Baba gave me that state in the silence. I come out of it and I thought, oh my God, he's protecting me every moment, every moment. So even though I don't feel it all the time, things are happening where all my needs are getting met, and it's making me kind of laugh. So what I've been doing, sometimes I'm saying his name and walking down the street, I don't experience the presence, but I'll switch into the provisional ego. Baba's looking at the tree. Baba is putting one foot in front of the other. Baba is experiencing illusion through the eyes of Bubble Marion. And, you know, and that shift will then, so sometimes I shift back and forth between saying Baba's name and the provisional ego, and that's what works for me. So thank you.
I love it. I love everything you're saying. I think there's a book in you, Marion. I think you have a book to write.
I'm writing it. My fear that I carry over from childhood is being visible.
Oh.
So
well,
here,
there you go.
I keep getting unmasked, like you saying that. And I was on with people who run a newspaper. We did a meditation the other day. There's this wonderful spiritual newspaper. And there were only three of us on, the editor and the publisher and me. And he's saying, I think you have a book to write, or you can write articles for our paper. And I thought, oh no, Baba is like making me, you know, dissolve that early childhood image of that to be with God, I got to be invisible.
No, he's protecting you. I think the book needs to come out.
Yeah, he's protecting me, and it's so obvious. I'm like astonished.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much, Marion. I'll share a little bit. Oh, Marcia's got something.
I can totally identify with what you just talked about, because I feel like I'm going through a similar experience. Like I would rather, when I grew up, be on, like not confrontational and just really to myself. But now I'm feeling like God's making me come out. It's like he pushed me out, and I'm very conscious of what I say, and sometimes I embarrass myself, so I've kept quiet. But I have a picture of him, and every time I look at it, I said I'm supposed to be doing this. He made me come out. So I've been like looking at all my art and my writing and everything, and working on iMovie, and I don't even know why or what, but it's just like it's like this lifetime has been a long time in coming for all of us. I feel like he's showing us the inner, to be natural to what's our, if you find the truth within, that you find out who you are. And I know that he's just there. He's really, there's just, and I'm saying, is this really true? How can this be possible? I mean, always, when I was young, I always felt that I was a part of something that I didn't know what it was. Like I felt like I was a puzzle, like a piece of a puzzle. And now you are all my puzzles and my pieces, and we all are learning from each other. And it's like so wonderful that it's like such a gift. It's like to me, when we went into the pandemic and we did like Hollywood Squares, all of us could see each other in virtual time. I mean, how amazing is it that we're all speaking to each other in the same moment, and you know that God's with you, and that you don't have to, like, if I didn't have God or Baba, I would hide under my bed and I would never go out. And then today I got up and I had to go to the eye doctor, and I got there and I brought my dog Gidget, and they wouldn't let me stay because of germs. So I said, okay. So I rescheduled and I went, and I just had this, I got lost and I was driving around and I discovered that I had to get, like, I had a list the other day. I said, if I'm going to get something done, I'm going to make a list, because otherwise I know what I have to do. So I have to write down what I'm doing. And all of a sudden in 3 days, all the things after Silence Day, because during Silence Day, all these things came to me, but I had to be silent. So I had to wait till Monday. And I made a list, and all of a sudden in 2 days, all these things happened. And I find that I'm driving around a lot and I don't know where I'm going, and that used to upset me. And now I feel like I'm driving, Bob is driving everywhere, and I cannot have any clue of what he's doing, but he's doing stuff because he's driving the car, and I'm like, okay, I'm lost. All of a sudden I find I'm looking at Amazon Prime. I'm trying to go get my vehicle emissions test, and I got lost getting there, and while I got lost getting there, I saw this huge factory of I don't know how big, 3 baseball fields big of Amazon Prime. And I said, look how this is in our life, Amazon Prime, and all these things, and getting emissions tests and being out in the world. And I said, Baba says, just detach. So I just detached, and everything went really fine. And I don't get worried when I get lost driving anymore. I just feel like, okay, he's taking me somewhere. Why? And then also now when I go to bed, I think about what happened during the day, and then like I've got pain in my body because I had pain since I was 18, and so like I'm massaging my body parts, and all of a sudden I'm massaging everybody in the world's body part that has a sore shoulder, and it's like, okay, so all the things from all my past lives seem to be coming together. Like and I'm saying, is this really true? Was I a monk, or was I killed in the Holocaust, or was I on the cross with Jesus? And I said, yeah, probably. So anyway, I know this is being taped, and I don't usually do this, but I just said I have to do it. So if
Thank
I'm
you.
embarrassing, I'm embarrassing, but okay.
Thank you, Marcia. Jay Bob. All right, I think we're at the top of the hour, so I'm going to share the screen, and we'll see Baba, and then we'll call it a night. Can you see my screen when I share it like that?
What about your share? What about your share, Laurent?
Oh,
Before you.
okay.
Yes,
Can you hear me?
I wanted to hear that too.
I want
Yes.
to hear you share, yeah.
Can you hear me, and can you see Baba?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. So when I came to Baba, I was 17 years old, and I didn't really know anything about God and spirituality. I just barely knew a tiny bit about Jesus, but I was very naive and very, I'd come from an intellectual, artistic background in the West Village of New York, and I had studied science and chemistry and all that. So I really didn't know anything. So naturally, I didn't immediately relate to Mayor Baba as within me at all. He was somebody who had lived in India. He was brand new in my life. I was just reading the Universal Message for the first time, and How to Love God and 12 Ways of Realizing Me. And I really didn't know there were books. I just thought there was these few messages. It was an incredible time in my life. And then I had a dream of Baba, and he was in the playground where I played as a child. And there was a little hut in the playground, and there was nobody else in the playground except me and Baba. It was completely empty, but there was this hut in the playground, and he was inside the hut on his like chaise lounge kind of thing, where he was sort of reclining, and there was a light inside the hut, and I was probably about 50 feet away outside the hut, and I could see through the door right to Baba. And he made a gesture for me to come to him. He just like waved for me to come into the hut, and I woke up. And looking back now, that was 1986, so a long time ago now. That was exactly what I needed at that point, was that dream, because I had subsequently many other dreams of Baba, but he was very gradually and very gracefully bringing me from putting Baba up in a way and like transcendent Baba to closer and closer, more and more intimate, to the point where he was in the playground with me, very kind of, psychologically significant for me, like that inner child kind of stuff. And then gradually it was more intimate, like here I am with him in the playground. Then it was more like in the dream, he would touch my shoulder, things like that. And so then at some point it became a relationship where when I was thinking about Baba, I wasn't thinking about him as external anymore. I was actually thinking of him as internal, but I wasn't even aware of how gradually that happened, where he went from being this, this figure that I wasn't worthy to behold, kind of that Judeo-Christian, like God is beyond, in heaven or something, to really being my companion and my divine beloved within. To then what happened was, instead of having dreams so much, I started having intuitive experience of his voice. And so I think that mirrors some of Baba's messages of like, it starts with love, and then love matures into more of an obedience, where you're now engaged in a deeper level of love. Like for me, obedience is a deeper level of love. And then Baba indicates that it goes from obedience to surrender, that the surrender is even deeper, because you're just giving up all attachment in a way that's intentional. And I think Jeff said it well, like it frees up that room to be with Baba in the heart, and it frees up a lot of other things too. So it's hard to talk about in a short amount of time. So I wrote some books about it, but I think that for me, I can speak about it, and I love to speak about it because it helps me to remember him more. So thank you for listening to that.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing.
Baba.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for listening. Let's spend a moment with Baba in silence, and then we can see who wants to linger after. Jai Baba. Thank you, everybody, for allowing me to facilitate tonight. I thought that was really lovely. And for all your sharing, thank you for coming. And we can remain here longer. If anybody wants to stay, that's fine. I'm just happy that we were able to be here.
Yes.
Laurent, I wanted to say something, I think specifically to you. I remember meeting your wife one year when I visited the center, and she was still with Kevin, and I saw little Francis, and I got a kick out of him because he was the terror in the original kitchen. Vanessa was busy with something, and he was just creating pure havoc inside that dining room. And I was just sitting in there watching it. And I didn't know what to think, be honest about it, because but he was having fun. But he was small. I guess he might have been 2 or 2.5, you know. And so then the next year I came, and suddenly I saw you with Vanessa. And so that was always a conundrum for me, you know, having met her before and all this kind of stuff. But I don't know what's going on all that. But then over the years, especially through Vanessa's Facebook post, I've come to really admire what I apparently see as your family life. And I just want to say, kind of, I respect you, and I adore you too as a family. You're all of you as a family. There's something there that is so honest and natural that it's lovely. So thank you, Laurent.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing all that. It's very humbling. Thank you. Anybody can share at this point. There's no agenda. Anybody's free to share.
I'll share how I broke my silence. The most humiliating kind of way this year. It was a beautiful, beautiful Baba-full day, and I was asking Baba. I was saying, because I've blown it at least once in the most recent silence days. So I said, let me observe this silence day well, you know, and not like I'm gonna do it, but just help. But in the evening, I had videotaped some Turner Classic movies that I thought maybe I'll watch one done on Silence Day. And it was a really good movie, and Zeke was in the other room, and then she came in, and I didn't realize she'd been hearing the whole thing. And she sort of looked at me and looked at the screen as if she wasn't sure what was happening. So out of my silence, I said, the money's in the doll the girl is holding.
That was a scene in the movie?
Yeah, yeah. It was like you needed to know that to understand the scene. So I said, the money's in the doll the girl is holding. I've got to say it's unique among my Silence Day gaps.
It sounds a little bit like a spy code name or like a spy password.
Yes, it does. It was literally true in terms of the movie, but yes.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's funny. Thank you for sharing that, Tony.
My pleasure.
You know, the one danger over the years that of how people break their silence is, say, if you're reading a book and no one in the book is observing silence. So you look up and you see somebody and, yeah, I'm just reading the book, you know, and you've broken your silence like that, because you're in a world where silence isn't taking place, or like a movie or something like that.
Because the people are speaking to each other and it's all in your head.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
One of the nice quotes that have been Baba's has been floating around recently that I like. Baba says, I tell you, don't worry, be happy. Why? Because I know the ending, and the ending is beautiful.
Where'd you find that?
I don't know. It's been floating around. Isn't that nice, though?
Yeah, I love it.
I know when I was in college in New York, I mean, I grew up in the Northwest, and, you know, it was a pretty temperate climate. So I was not ever properly dressed for New York City, especially when the wind chill, you know, wind whipping through between the buildings. It was freezing. And I would kind of agonize if I was going someplace, I'd kind of agonize with how cold it was. And then I finally get to a place where I, you know, and step inside, and it was all warm and comfortable. And it was almost like I used to kind of think, God, where did all that misery go? It just disappeared. You know, I was warm. I didn't even think about what I'd just been through. And it's going to be like that. We're going to, you know, when we finally realize ourselves, all the stuff that we've been through is just like, it disappears like that.
It's a great metaphor, Jeff.
Yeah. I mean, I used to wonder, like, I'm not even thinking about what I just went through, being miserably cold.
Would
because
you be
I'm
willing
warm
to share,
now. What do I have to think about?
would you be willing to share with everybody the story about what it's like when you're driving Baba in the car? Do you remember that story?
Yeah, I mean, I had written it down.
Well, you remember it. Just tell the gist of it. It's so good. How it starts, where you're driving Baba and he's in the
Okay,
passenger
yeah,
seat.
it's funny. I woke up one morning and I don't think I'm going to remember it well enough. It's, but I'll try. Um, so I came over here about 3 a.m. and wrote this down. Say, okay, oh, you know, I think it's just too much to remember, because it has a certain progression, and I think I'll miss it. But I will, and my computers, I've got it on my computer, but my computer crashed. And so I've got it backed up, but I don't think I would remember it well enough.
All right, maybe next time. Maybe next
Yeah.
time. Okay. Anybody else before we wrap it up?
I remember when you told a story, and that's why when I'm driving all the time, I'm thinking that Bob is driving because of you telling that story.
Yeah.
You,
Well,
you
I
asked
guess I
me
can kind of give a,
exactly-
I can give kind of a synopsis of it.
Okay.
I said, it's the kind of trajectory of my whole life from from my early days with Baba to my present time. So I say something like, you know, following Baba is like driving a car through the perilous highways of the world. And I'm in the front seat, and I've put Baba in the back seat, and he's very, you know, he's fine with that. So I'm driving along, and but from time to time, you know, Baba, you know, says things from the back seat, you know, like pull over or turn here or something like that. I find it's incredible. Like, as a back seat driver, he's really pretty good, you know, and he's but he's guiding me from behind. I eventually roll up the windows and turn off the radio, and I'm listening to him. And so, but he's actually so good that eventually I asked him if to come up and sit in the passenger seat. So he's in the passenger seat, but I notice every once in a while he kind of grabs the steering wheel, and we're prevented from an accident. Or, you know, he'll indicate to go as a particular direction, and I'll take his advice, and he'll detour and everything. And I realize that, you know, that the road ahead had washed out, or there was some ice or something like that. And so his advice was just perfect, you know. So I start to trust him a little bit more. And eventually I decide, you know, he's actually doing a better job than I am, because he's even kind of grabbing the wheel every once in a while. So I invite him to be the driver, and I sit in the passenger seat. You know, but I find that he's kind of driving down certain, like, dark places, you know, that are a little bit scary, and are on roads that are kind of rough. And I have to grab the wheel every now and then. And he's all right about that. And then, until eventually I realized that, God, it's incredible. He's actually doing a really good job. I just kind of get into watching him drive, you know, and there's something kind of beautiful about that. And eventually I decide, I don't even need to look at the road anymore. I can just look at him. He's kind of doing a fine job. Why do I want to, I don't need to interfere anymore. And so eventually at a certain point, I decide, well, I should actually sit in the back seat and let him do the driving. So I'm in the back seat, and every once in a while I yell something. No, don't go that way. Don't. You know, I'm telling him what to do. And eventually I realize, you know, he really kind of knows what he's doing. And at one point I'm looking at him, and he looks a little bit like me. I'm saying, how could that be? Like, I'm in the back seat, and it's like he, as me, is doing the driving. And so what's happening is that, I mean, I asked myself, am I supposed to, am I just to watch him drive, to drive me in this highway? Am I just to watch him? Am I just supposed to be the consciousness watching him as me driving this vehicle? And I think it ends with something like, has he taken me for a ride? But my heart counters, no. This has been the ride of a lifetime.
I love it.
Only time will tell. But it's the kind of trajectory of my life where eventually I realize he's doing the driving, and he's always been the driver. I've just been thinking that it's me. I plagiarized him and calling him me. But he plays all the roles. What's that?
You played your drive.
Yeah. I drove him crazy. I drove myself crazy.
I love that story. You got to put out your book too, Jeff.
Yeah, we'll see.
Hey,
Now that
I don't know how much time we have, but Jeff told a story once about, I think her name was Susan. She was a nurse and she went to help an elderly guy in Ahmednagar. And I don't want to give the story away, but I don't even know if you've heard it, Laurent, but Jeff tells it magnificently. But when she was a little girl, she loved ballet, but she wasn't very good at it. But her mom put her in lessons. Jeff, wasn't that it?
Oh, you're on mute. I think he's talking about Susan Paul.
Yeah, I'm sure. Susan was her name. A nurse.
Yeah, she is a acupuncturist. Well, I can tell it kind of simply, but you should actually hear this story. She grew up in New York, and she was kind of interested in ballet. And the thing that she really was fascinated about this ballet publication is it had this kind of advertisement of with Margaret Krask on it, like something ballet theater Margaret Krask or something. She always kind of made note of that, and and she even got her daughter to take lessons with Margaret Krask, and didn't know anything about Bob, any connection, but she kind of had a fascination. So anyway, then she becomes an acupuncturist, and years later, she gets this job of doing acupuncture for the patriarch of this family, of this large family. It turns out to be the Sarda family in Ahmednagar that owns a big garment shop, fabric. So she flies to India, and someone in line at the customs or whatever, the customs, they find out that they're going to Ahmednagar, and it turns out to be Tom Fortson. So he's talking all about, because he thinks that she's a Baba person. So she's talking a bit about that, and she doesn't know anything. But he says, "What? So you're going to this place, but one day I'll take you to this place called Marabad." So she's there. She's helping this family out, living in a nice place. But they had arranged to, for her to be shown around Marabad. So Tom comes and gets her on his motorcycle one day and takes her. So she comes up, among other things, they eventually come to the tomb, and Nana Care gives her a big hug and says, "Welcome home." She doesn't know what the heck this is, what the hell is this? And so she goes then she somehow goes into the tomb. She's kind of like in a very kind of confused state. And so she kind of wanders over there, these graves beyond Mara and all of theirs. There's Norina and all of that. She goes over there and she looks down out of her kind of delirium. And there is this Margaret Trask, Baba's dancer, here in rural India. Margaret Trask, what is this? You know, it was just amazing. I mean, she eventually, you know, she's become a lifelong Baba lover, but just imagine, you know, way out in the middle of nowhere, she sees the grave of Margaret Trask, who's this ballet instructor there in New York City. So is that the
That's an incredible story.
Yeah, well, I remember you telling the first time where I think she was wearing sandals and she tripped and fell. And when she looked up, she's lying there in the gravel. She sees Margaret Trask's little.
Oh, that
cement.
might be the case.
And then suddenly she goes, Margaret Trask, what are you doing here? But I did meet her and hear her. I heard her tell this story because it's so fascinating.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, Susan Paul, she's here in Asheville, I think. I just saw her.
Yeah, you should ask her to tell her story. It is.
Oh yeah, we'll get the story. I'll videotape the story. That's a great idea.
I mean, it's really how it unfolds is pretty amazing.
I felt I got to know her when she was living in New York and going to Baba House for about a year or so, but I've never heard this story. It was really nice to have.
It was really far out. Incredible.
It's a great story. It's a great story. All right. Well, it's about 11:30, so you
Oh,
all
that's-
can
yeah.
stay. If anybody wants to be the host, you let me know. Otherwise, we
you.
can wrap it up.
No, I'm going.
Margie's going to be
Thank
here in
you.
about